This is the 1959 Santiago International Tournament, a memorial tournament, Torneo de Arturo Alessandri Palma, held from April 20th to May 6th, right on the heels of the Mar del Plata tournament. And 8 of the players here at Santiago also played at Mar del Plata. That was a 15-player event, this a 13-player event. Bobby, not having his best event here, tied for 4th place with 7 wins, 4 losses, and a draw. But this event held from April 20th to May 6th, 1959 in Santiago, Chile. 13 grandmasters and masters from Europe, North America, and South America competed. Well, the tournament was fairly important for Fischer, who has only recently begun to compete in international events. Just did not fare so well in this particular event. And part of the reason, according to this, that Fischer and Pachmann, after the Mar del Plata event, kind of went on a tour through South America on their way to Santiago. And apparently, in this event, several rounds, Pachmann was playing Fischer's prep, and Fischer was playing Pachmann's prep. So, you know. And it's been a long, long trip, I think, for the 16-year-old Bobby Fischer. Well, you guys remember when you were that age, no discipline at all, I'm sure. And, you know, stay up till all hours. Who knows? I'm making excuses for him. Simply said, he did not play the best chess of his life in this event, but he played some pretty good chess. Played April 29th, 1959. René Letelier Martner was born in San Bernardo, Chile. Is that how a Chilean pronounces this name? I'm pronouncing it more of a French pronunciation, Letelier. Anybody know how that's actually meant to be pronounced among Chileans? A Chilean is Spanish, yes? Spanish, it might just be Letelier. Somebody tell me if I'm correct. So anyway, it's either Letelier or Letelier. René Letelier Martner. I'll stick with the French pronunciation for now. Born in San Bernardo, Chile, February 21st, 1915. He passed away July 2nd, 2006, at the age of 91. Good long life. He's a national master here. FIDE master didn't exist yet. He would become an international master the following year in 1960. 5-time Chilean champion. Those titles came in 1957, 59, 60, 64, and 1972. And again, we have E4, E5, Knight F3, Knight C6, and here is your Ruy Lopez. Bishop B5, Paul Morphy's variation, Pawn A6, the Columbus variation, Bishop A4, Knight F6 this time. Now we castle, and we get a closed Spanish here with Bishop E7. Rook E1, B5, Bishop B3, D6, C3, kingside castles, and we get Paul Keres with H3. Knight A5, Bishop C2, Pawn C5, all normal stuff. Pawn D4, Queen C7 is Mikhail Chigorin's defense. Knight BD2, Rook E8, Knight F1, Bishop D7. Knight E3. Now Bishop F8. Pretty common move, but the book move is G6 here. For some reason, the bot really not liking this at this juncture. Bobby with Bishop D2 here. He gets a big red X. D5 being called for. It's only been played D5. Has only been played one time that I know of. The most frequently played move is to play D takes E5 here. D5 was played in the 1953 Swedish Chess Championship. Zandor Nilsson, and that was a match championship. Zandor Nilsson playing against Gerste Stoltz, and Nilsson playing D5, won with D5 in 1953. Bobby with Bishop D2, getting the big red X from the annotator. Queen's Rook to B8, another big red X. I would think G6 is still on the table here. It gets an inaccuracy. Rook A, B8. Again, don't fret the inaccuracies too much. B4, another big red X. I guess if I'm moving my B-man, I'm going to go to B3. I get a check mark, but I don't know that I'd actually be in a hurry to move my B-man. I like getting my rook on C1 in this kind of a position. Let's see what we get for rook C1. Inaccurate. Should have stuck with B3. I got a check mark for that one. Anyway, Bobby with B4. Knight C6. Yeah, so, I wasn't expecting the bot to recommend pawn takes B4. I thought C takes D4 hits the knight. I get a star, right? It keeps the balance. You get a counterattack. Yes, I can play C takes D4 back. Maybe he'll play knight C4 here. Now that the C-man is gone, yeah, I get a star. Knight takes, pawn takes. You have a passed pawn. You could blockade this. That's the move. Thumbs up. Okay. Pretty equal if you look at the eval bar. Go back. Knight C6 was Letelier's choice. Now B takes C5. And knight D5's got to be a matter of concern with the queen there on C7. E takes D4. Knight D5 indeed is played. Do not play C takes D4 here. On C takes D4, D takes C5. Okay, you might be okay if you play E5 here. It says trade, but then here, and here, and here, and you got to decide what to do about that. Probably just G6, I'm going to guess. Oh, wow. Back, 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 back. Knight D5. Hits the queen. So don't panic here if you're black. Don't play a move like queen A7. It might be tempting. Just take the knight, which is what he did. On queen A7, yeah, it gets a big question mark. That gives me time to play knight takes the pawn here. If you play queen takes my pawn, I've got knight takes the knight. Right, and then he can queen takes the knight. Yeah, actually, that's the best line there. Keep in mind, come back to queen A7. There are a couple ways white could go wrong here with moves like bishop G5. Oh, gets a check mark after all. I was going to say not bishop G5, allowing knight takes knight, pawn takes knight, rook takes rook check, queen takes rook, and then queen takes the pawn on C5. Back, 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 back. Or I don't think C takes D4 is the right approach here. Inaccurate. And after takes, well, I could play knight F4. I think white's good here anyway, to be honest. I was going to say don't play that, but white's okay. Anyway, none of that was played because he went with the correct move. Knight takes the knight. Now E takes D5. You also have the pawn coming at the D-man. So a lot of tension here. He played D takes C3. Bishop takes the pawn. Rook takes the rook check. And queen takes the rook. Here I would not recommend knight takes the rook. Right, it gets a question mark. That's going to be answered by D takes C5 or not. No, because I can take this. I feel like that's, well, it favors white slightly. Let's go back. The right move is queen takes the rook. Knight E7 here. C takes D6. Right, speaking of nuts, don't go for the cheapo. Don't go for this. He just plays bishop F5. Although you could try to get cheeky and fork the queen and the knight, but I think he just takes here, and black is looking okay. Let's go back. So C takes D6 is the best choice. Queen takes D6. Now bishop E5. A skewer. Queen B6. Bishop takes the rook. Queen takes the bishop. Rook D1. White's piece is very active. Knight C8. This passed pawn is going to be a menace. Knight E5. Queen D6. What a miserable move to have to make. Knight takes the bishop. Again, don't go for the cheapo. He's just going to blunt the diagonal. All right, you're still probably better. Just double your major pieces. You're still probably better. But knight takes the bishop is the simplest. Queen takes the knight. Queen A5 here. Queen D6. Bishop B3. Might want to get rook C1 in. Knight E7. Now rook C1. Knight takes the pawn. Queen D2 pins the knight. Well, it's a soft pin. The queen is defended. But he plays queen F4 here. saying, let's just trade queens over here, and I've got a pawn here compensating me for the exchange. That's his opinion. I don't know how sound it is. Bobby goes ahead and says, I've got the material advantage. I'm going to go ahead and take that simplification. So queen takes queen and knight takes queen, and you get a rook bishop versus knight bishop endgame. Immediately grabbing the 7th rank, knight e6 hits the rook, rook a7, getting behind the weak pawn. It's indefensible. You say no, he could play his knight to the c5 square, right? Not really, because on knight c5, we're going to play bishop takes the pawn. Boom, check. Boom, checka-lecka-lecka. So he tried b4, rook takes the a-man, knight c7, rook back to a7, bishop d6, trying to keep lines blocked to that f-man and get his bishop a little more active. Rook b7 now, king f8 gets out of the bishop's line of fire. Rook b6 though, knight e8, now bishop a4, and it's here that Letelier gave it up. Not much to comment on there. I mean, Bobby steamrolled him, didn't he? So for the 4th consecutive game, mid-90s accuracy, 94.8 to be exact. And for the 4th consecutive game, 2,800 single game rating.